Hello everyone. On behalf of CAI and the Great IT Professional, we'd like to welcome you today to this webinar on Transform Your Career by Crafting a Powerful Brand Story. This webinar has been developed by Hector Del Castillo, and my name is Wendy Nolan. I'm the host for CAI's Great IT Professional Educational Program. You will be able to hear Hector and myself as panelists, but just as a reminder, the other audio lines have been muted. Hector helps product executives and leaders turn ideas into valuable products. He has launched over 30 profitable products so far. Hector is a product executive with over 20 years of experience working with digital companies with world-class offerings. Mid-market product executives and leaders come to Hector when they need help to spark creativity and innovation within product teams. He helps digital company executives and leaders substantially transform and grow their companies, resulting in over 26% increase in product profitability. Hector, thanks so much for joining us today. Would you like to tell us more about BoldPM?
Yes, hi Wendy. It's a pleasure to be here today joining you. BoldPM is a product management consulting firm, and we work with mid-market product executives and leaders to improve product performance within their companies. So usually we end up working with their teams and ensuring that they are high-performing teams and they have all the tools and systems prepared so they can actually start tracking and then managing product performance.
Great. Thanks so much. Our webinar today is brought to you and sponsored by CAI. CAI specializes in the software development and maintenance side of technology with an emphasis on delivering projects on time, on budget, and at 25% less cost. We're intellectual leaders in our field with over 4,000 associates and 35 years of experience, and as such, we're committed to teaching the IT community about the art and science of technology management. To facilitate this knowledge transfer, we created the Great IT Professional as a platform for sharing and teaching within the IT community. We've produced over 1,000 hours of educational content, all of which you can feel free to access at greatpro.org. We also have a mobile app for iOS users, which you can download at greatpro.org/mobile. We understand that as an IT professional, your knowledge growth is critical for your career success and earning capacity, and to that end, CAI is proud to be partnered with you on your journey of continuous learning and development. Thanks so much to everyone for joining us. Thanks for your patience with our opening remarks, and at this point, I'll turn it over to Hector so we can get started with the presentation.
Thank you so much, Wendy. Hi, my name is Hector Del Castillo, Chief Product Officer at BoldPM, and today's topic is Transform Your Career by Crafting a Personal Brand Story. And today's discussion is going to be an engaging conversation regarding why your personal brand story matters and help you get some tips on how to prepare a powerful personal brand story. And today's discussion is an extension of last month's webcast, and if you haven't seen it, it's already available from the Great IT Professional, so that you can actually start with your elevator pitch and now you start expanding and deepening your personal brand story. That's what we're going to be discussing today. Before we get started, I want to give a special thanks to the Great IT Professional. They provide great educational content for those of you who want to continue learning. And currently they have unlimited PDUs and they're running a promotion, so be sure to take advantage of that. It's a one-year membership and you can get information from either Wendy or Susan. They can give you information about how to join. Also, a shout out to Podcast Village because they produce great HD video and podcasts from recorded content that I produce over time. Also, if you're on Twitter, I would recommend that you use the following hashtags: hashtag supercharge, hashtag personal brand, hashtag strategic, and hashtag storytelling. And use the following handles: at Great IT Pro 1, number 1, that is the Great IT Professional handle, and then my own at HM Del Castillo, and you should be able to share any content from today's discussion using these particular hashtags and handles. 7 seconds is what it takes to make a first impression, and today's attention span has been shrinking. We have less than 7 seconds when we're meeting somebody new to decide whether or not they're going to like us or not. And often overcoming a bad first impression can take some additional work. So often you have to ensure that you're ready, especially when you are meeting the right people. Be prepared to have your pitch. And today's discussion is going to be about understanding how to do that specifically. I also want to point out that we will have a Q&A session. So if you have any questions, we're going to go through the material quite fast. But what we're going to do is actually type in your questions using the Q&A window, and then we will have a moderated Q&A or at Ask Me Anything before the end of today's discussion. So what we're going to be discussing today is number one is why a powerful personal brand story matters. Second, we're going to give you some tips on how to craft your own personal brand story. We're going to do some key takeaways, and then finally it will be the Ask Me Anything Q&A portion that will be moderated. So be sure to submit your questions as we cover any material. If you have any questions as to what we're covering, we can get to your questions during today's Q&A portion. So before we actually get started, I want to ask this particular question. How are you personally impacted by COVID-19? And you can type any of these answers using the chat window. I'm actually going to also share the same thing with all of you using the chat. If you can respond using the chat window, just give me one of these. Are you currently unemployed, underemployed because of COVID-19? There's been no impact, meaning you're currently working same as before. Are you now mostly teleworking? Are you currently unhappily employed because of what just happened because of COVID-19? Or are you absolutely overwhelmed with work? Type in your answers and I'll be sharing some of these. And I see many of you are saying teleworking, so it seems to be a very popular answer. Some of you are saying also unemployed, underemployed. So if you could see, it's like, and some of you are saying you're overwhelmed with work. Either way, when you're actually looking at the two extremes, underemployed or overwhelmed with work, it's not necessarily a happy situation. And if you're mostly teleworking today, I want to ask you a question. How secure do you feel that you're going to have the same position in a few months? And how do you actually start networking within your organization when you're mostly stuck doing Zoom meetings 24/7? At least that's what it appears like if you are teleworking. And for those of you who are currently all of a sudden unemployed or underemployed, how are you going to deal with a job search that is going to be a lot of Zoom interviews? Video conferencing is the way of the future for the job search process, and you need to be prepared to be able to do this. Today's discussion will help you in ensuring that no matter where you are in these categories, you will be able to elevate your presence in a video conference and become a powerful storyteller. So here's a quote from Robert McKee, and Robert McKee is a great screenwriter, and he actually does a lot of storytelling workshops around the world. He has been doing this for a long time. He's a very successful author as well as a trainer of people who want to actually start writing stories. And he's saying storytelling is the most powerful way to put ideas into the world today. In other words, if you are a futurist, you create the vision by telling a very compelling story. And then you get others and inspire others to actually start building the future. That's what storytelling, how powerful storytelling can be. So let's move on and start looking at other things. And actually, I want to get into the second poll now. I know many of you responded, and here's the second poll. Rate your personal brand today. Is it poor? Is it below average? Give me one of these ones, and I will then again share the responses via the chat window so that I can actually start monitoring your responses. Pick one of these. Which one are you at today regarding your personal brand? Are you 1 star, meaning you're poor and needs a lot of work? 2 stars, meaning you're below average. 3 stars, you're average. 4 stars, you are above average. Or 5 stars, are you excellent because you've been working at optimizing and actually improving your personal brand over time. If you can share your responses, I'm seeing that many of you are saying that you're actually at below average. Some of you are saying you're average. Some of you are saying poor. A few of you are saying above average. I don't see anybody saying that right now you're excellent. And actually, this is good because this will help you. Storytelling can help you actually improve your personal brand over time. And so I think today's discussion will be relevant to all of you who are either have a poor personal brand, are below average, or above average, so you can actually get to the excellent level. So let's move on to why storytelling is important. Well, number one, human beings, our brains are wired to remember stories. And what that means is that storytelling is the most powerful way that you can influence anyone's thoughts. If you ever saw the movie Inception, where people could actually get themselves into a lucid dream and then implant ideas into somebody else's brain, it actually was, this is exactly what you can do without having all this technology. A story, a great story, and a great storyteller can get into your mind in a way that you don't have to repeat the story very many times. People will just remember. It'll just stick because our brains are wired to remember stories. And this is what neuroscientists are saying. It stimulates dopamine levels. A great story can actually also increase cortex activity. It can actually increase the mirroring of your active listeners and also starts coupling your neural network in your brain. All of these things are the reasons why we are wired to remember stories. And this is why you should become a great storyteller. There are 7 reasons as to how you can actually craft a great personal brand story, and we're going to share those today very quickly. So number 1, the top reasons why you should craft your personal story is it allows you to clearly communicate who you are, where you've been, and where you're going next. And that should be the essence of your personal brand. Regardless of the number of years of experience that you have, very quickly state to people where you've been, where you're at today, and where you want to go next in your career. It also allows you to start figuring out how to set you apart from everybody else who wants to be like you or is similar to you. We are all unique, and it allows you to start looking at what makes you unique, and we are all unique. Number 3, it allows you to build credibility and trust. That means that as you start making connections with people, they will be lasting connections. They will start forging relationships that allow you to start establishing yourself with credibility, especially if you have a consistent story or a consistent storyline in the way you tell your story. Number 4, it allows you to elevate your reputation because now you can come across as either an exceptional leader who gets things done, or at whatever else the way you want to be perceived by sharing specific stories that are relevant to your target audience. People will remember you for not only who you are, but also your accomplishments, your outcome, and that elevates your reputation. Number 5, it also allows you to convey your unique value proposition. Why is it that people should be considering hiring you, or why should they bring you on board to their organization, and how can you help them based on their current situation? These are all things that allow you to start tailoring your unique value proposition based on the organization or the type of role that you're pursuing next in your career. Number 6, it also allows you to boost your self-confidence. Often having this process of going through understanding where you've been, reframing your past, also understanding where you're at today and reframing what you're doing within your company today and where you're going next. The result of that is that it will boost your self-confidence because it allows you to actually start really enunciating, discovering perhaps your reason for being. Number 7, by doing all of the first 6 things, it will help you start forging lasting, rewarding relationships. Human-to-human relationships starts you to start establishing and forging lasting relationships. So in essence, the 7 reasons allow you to be able to build your network of people. And it's not about increasing what you know, it's about increasing who you know that might have an opportunity for you in order for you to get to where you want to go next. So the 7 reasons in summary are: number 1, it clearly allows your target audience to communicate who you are, sets you apart from others, builds credibility and trust, elevates your reputation, conveys your unique value proposition, boosts your self-confidence, and then allows you to forge lasting relationships. That's the reasons why you want to actually start building and crafting your own story. So here's another poll that I want you to respond to using the chat window. How would you rate yourself as a storyteller? And if you are a technologist, I will share some of my struggles with you, but I want to share this particular poll with you so that you can actually respond to it, and you can type in any of these choices on the chat window and I will read off some of your responses. And some of you are saying average, below average already. Some of you are saying excellent. And some of you, I think the majority of you are saying below average or average. This is our tips. We're going to be discussing 7 tips that will allow you to start not only becoming a great storyteller, a better storyteller, but it's actually about becoming a better storyteller about your story, your reason for being, where you've been, where you're at today, and where you're going next when it comes to your career. And it may be more than just work. It may be about what you're trying to achieve as a human, what you're trying to do. And these are 7 tips that can help you achieve any of those things, because relationships are not just for business. It could be for other things that you're interested. And then over time, you want to align everything that you're doing so that it aligns with your purpose for being. So here are the 7 tips that we're going to talk about in more detail. Number 1, if you're going to write your own story, make sure it's about you, that it's authentic, that it's memorable. And it also has to be emphasize your values. Recognize what your values are, because most of those things are invisible to most people unless you clearly communicate what you stand for and who you are. What has made you, you. Number 3, it elevates your image. It also helps you highlight your superpowers. It also helps you choose how to deal with non-believers. It helps you determine your brand mantra. And number 7, allows you to choose the right heroes. We're going to talk in more details about this, and we're going to cover all 7 of this and then do the key takeaways after this. So let's start with the first tip, creation story. A creation story allows you to start establishing, where did you come from? What is this picture about? Those of you who have seen this picture, actually you can find it on the internet and multiple times when people are talking about this. This is somebody's detached garage. So what is the famous picture? What company got started inside this garage before Silicon Valley was Silicon Valley? That's a little hint for you guys. If you can type in and share your guess on the chat, we can cover some of that. See if you guys can guess what company in Silicon Valley got started in this detached garage. And it's been in several different ones. Some of you are saying Apple, some of you are saying Facebook. Well, it's close. Think about what made Silicon Valley, because these companies that you just mentioned came after Silicon Valley was already Silicon Valley. So I see the right answer. The right answer is Hewlett-Packard. The 3 founders of Hewlett-Packard actually started HP in this garage. And many other companies in Silicon Valley got started in a garage. And this is the reason why most founders today want to start their companies in a garage. This has happened over and over across companies, but this is the garage where Hewlett-Packard got started. And it's actually the creation story of Hewlett-Packard, the company itself. But allowing that path to describe where do you come from today is very powerful, because it will help you connect with others. And I would share my creation story. I've been in product management for over 20 years. And I actually was in development because I actually got my bachelor's and master's in electrical engineering, and I did development projects for a long, long time before I actually shifted into product management. It wasn't until I arrived at Lucent Technologies 2 years after Lucent Technologies had been broken up by the government, by the U.S. federal government, from AT&T. And AT&T at the time became purely a service provider, broken up into multiple companies, not just one, in North America. And then worldwide, they were a global leader. So Lucent Technologies was the equipment vendor that supplied all the major telcos around the world. And it was there that I learned that as a project manager, as a systems engineer, I actually was talking to all these people who were actually talking to customers. And they were bringing me in front of customers when I was doing requirements gathering. And that's where I learned about the role of product management and product marketing. And that's what got me started, because I was really enamored with the idea of being able to go outside of the building and really understand customer needs, customer desires, and bring those and to convert them into requirements for what we were about to do for the future of our products. And so once I became a product manager at Lucent, I've stayed in product management ever since. And this was before the end of the 20th century. So that's my creation story. Moving on, figure out what your creed is. And creed is, think about a creed as being your personal Declaration of Independence or your personal constitution. And it's really about understanding what makes you you. It's about your core values. It's about understanding what values are the ones that made you you, and then be able to clearly enunciate those to anyone when you're talking to them based on where you've been, what you're doing today, and where you're going next. What has made you you is about understanding the values that you hold personally close to you. And you may not have a Declaration of Independence, or you might not have a constitution that is written, a document that is written about this, but you can at least document those, and that begins to shape how you present your personal brand and your story. Here's an example. I used images for my top three core values. Number one, what does this picture tell you that it represents me? Think something that actually resonates deeply with me, makes me who I am. As a product manager, I'm not just working on today's products, I'm working on tomorrow's products. And I'm not interested in just being able to visualize the future. I'm interested in working with people who can create and build the future by building future products. So what is this all about? It's about creativity, it's about innovation. And this is just one image, and usually you can try to find the image and put maybe a few words behind it. Here's my second value. What does it take to be a rock climber that has no rope and understands how to find a new path when there is no path? It's number one, it's about having the courage and being bold to be a trailblazer, go to where no one has been before, or go to where only a few humans have been before. This really resonates with me because I tend to be an explorer. And walking a path where nobody else has been takes courage and it takes boldness. Number three, what is this all about? People are working together, trying to figure out what to do next, and prioritizing things and figuring out what is the decision-making process and why should certain decisions be made before others. This picture is about collaboration, and I really enjoy working in highly collaborative environments, and that's where I've been. If you look at my past, it's really about places that not only innovate and are very creative, they also are the first movers in any market, any industry, and I'm constantly collaborating with cross-functional teams. And those three values is actually why I'm so in love with product management. This is why I've stayed in product management as I've gone from one company to another, because the three values are all common to someone who wants to become an exceptional product manager. Icons are all about figuring out how not just to use your one sense, but using multiple senses to define who you are. Your personal brand should not just be about what you write about yourself, it's also about presenting yourself visually in a way that is appealing. Here's my concise personal brand, and now I can deploy this and choose the different colors, the different themes that actually start deepening the story. So here's my basic that I can use as a watermark or as a starting point that now I can start creating different stories. See how I deploy my personal brand visually, and I'm appealing to not just the eyes because you're reading about it, you also want to lengthen the sound, the sights, and the smells if you can. All of these things you can attach to a brand. Here's a different visualization that actually allows me to now start looking at different content. And the same brand now deployed using a specifically different color template, but also gives you a different perspective as to what do I do? And what is it that I'm going, not what I'm doing, not only about what I'm doing today, but also about where I'm going next. Here's a different implementation of the same thing. Creativity, innovation, if you want to be able to form high-performing product teams that are innovating and looking at the future of your organization, come to me because I can actually help you build and grow high-performing, innovative teams. That's what this is projecting. And the more of this that you can start trialing, there's a lot of A/B testing and figuring out whether or not this works for your target audience or not. And ultimately, you want to ask yourself, how are you different than others in your field? And having a lot of icons and different types of icons attached to your personal brand and your story allows you to start standing out from others who may have similar experience or may be similar to what you do. And this allows you to stand out. This is understanding what makes you unique and clearly communicating that, not just in writing, but also visually, and also attaching sounds and sights. You want to appeal to all the senses that we have. That's what icons are all about. Rituals. Rituals are your daily habits. And daily habits are what actually people start figuring out how to become elite in whatever they do. Here's Serena Williams. And Serena Williams, when she was at the top of her game a few years ago, and actually she was on a path where she was actually emerging as a tennis player. And today she's a very successful woman. She's starting a television show nowadays. She's still playing, but she's also sort of like starting to now shift her career, even as she hasn't officially retired as a tennis player. And the daily habit that she had was when you saw her at the US Open 3 or 4 years ago, she had this habit every time before her serve that she would bounce the ball 5 times before any serve. Whether it was a first serve or a second serve, didn't really matter. Her ritual was to bounce the ball 5 times exactly before actually beginning the serve. And that's a ritual. Now, is that going to work for everybody? Maybe not. But these are the things that you start figuring out. What are the habits that you have that allow you to actually get better and be exceptional at what you do, who you are, and what makes you that go along with your values? I know my ritual in product management is that I'm constantly learning new things. Because if I'm going to explore, I'm always looking for where should I go next. If I can show people the way, it's not sufficient for me. Success is not a destination, right? It is a journey. If I'm going to continue to be an explorer, I need to continue for new paths, new ways to different things that help humanity move forward. And my ritual is about constantly nourishing my brain, treating my brain as a muscle, and on a daily basis, I'm looking to actually grow personally, not just in what I know, but also in who I know as well. And I'm doing both at the same time. exploring and optimizing at the same time. Pagans, realize that any brand, which is a brand is a belief system, and you're honing in on your positive beliefs, not your limiting beliefs. You're trying to eliminate limiting beliefs and actually expanding those that help you grow and that are going to continue to help you grow throughout your life. There'll be a lot of non-believers. There always are. There's a lot of naysayers, and you need to decide very early on how can you identify them and how are you going to deal with naysayers, because they're out there. Doesn't matter how positive you are, there's going to be a lot of naysayers. Here's an example. Microsoft and Apple in personalities. Who's Microsoft and who's Apple, right? If you ever saw this commercial back in, I think a few years ago, this was a very successful ad campaign for Apple, because Apple presented themselves differently, and both companies are mostly selling computers and operating systems and applications that go along with their computers. Over time, now that has shifted to something else, because for the most part, laptops are pretty much almost the same now. This was a very successful campaign that says who Apple was targeting compared to Microsoft. And you can do that. Here's what you want to do. Number one is identify who are your non-believers. This picture enunciates who are the non-believers in my world. So who are this? What is this picture communicating to you? Who are the non-believers that won't even consider bringing me on board within their company just because they like to have their own decisions and whatever they say goes? And they surround themselves with a lot of yes people. So who are this type of people? Can you describe them? What is the one or two words? How would you describe this? Use this on the chat window if you can. Share what type of people that are non-believers in my world. And I can tell you it is summarized in one word, and that is narcissists, right? The people that think that they are always right and everybody else is wrong. The people that say that they are the best and everybody else is below them, right? How many people do you know that are this way? And are they the type of people that you want to be hanging around with? Not in my world, I can tell you that, because these are people don't really truly value collaboration. They don't truly value other people's ideas because they're always right. And yes, there's ways to deal with narcissists, but I'd rather just avoid them, right? And I avoid companies that are being run by this type of people, because there are companies being run by this type of people, unfortunately. So you want to be able to figure out, who are the toxic people in the world that are your non-believers, and figure out very quickly how to deal with them, how to avoid them, so that prevent you from going to the wrong organization when you identify who they are and whether or not they're within the organization that you're planning on going next, or the current organization where you're at today, because this is maybe the reason why you are unhappily employed. Sacred words. Sacred words are all about understanding what is your creed. And this is Nike's brand mantra. A brand mantra is defined as a short sentence or phrase that is no more than 3 to 5 words. 3 to 5 words, no more, because this takes less than 7 seconds for people to really understand what your company is all about. And for Nike, their brand mantra is just do it. It's been so successful that they have become a global leader in athletic shoes and athletic wear. And there are a powerful global brand name. So what is your brand mantra? Here's a picture that states mine. And mine is very simple. I help turn ideas to valuable products. So the action is turning ideas into valuable products. And I can create that brand mantra and attach it to my brand if I wanted to. But it's really about, my targets are showing product executives and senior managers within companies that when they need to grow their teams to effectively turn ideas into valuable products, if they can't do it on their own, bring me in because I can help. I can help grow high-performing product teams that can quickly turn ideas into valuable products for their organization. And that's 3 to 5 things, 3 to 5 words I can submit. I can turn ideas into valuable products. That's my brand mantra, and that's the way I present myself. And then I build that into my elevator pitch, but I also then strengthen it with pillars in stories that I can share that are about my personal brand story. Show them what I've done for others when it comes to turning ideas into valuable products. Leaders. All of you should have either some sort of mentor, coach, or role models who are your heroes. And your heroes are about understanding why they're your role models, right? Here's one of mine, Bill Gates. And Bill Gates, this is something that he actually said before the beginning of the 21st century. So a few years ago, he was actually saying the 21st century is all going to be about collaborative leaders. And for the most part, has that become true? I think so. Actually, I'd really admire Bill Gates because as a human being, he not only went to actually found and start a brand new company that along with Apple became a global brand, that is Microsoft. When they first were doing, they actually, both companies invented the personal computer. And after the personal computer became a thing through both Microsoft and Apple users, they invented not just the operating system that goes along with personal computers, they also invented lots of different applications. And today, the biggest breadwinner for Microsoft is the Microsoft Office, which now they have turned into a SaaS offering with their Office 365. But Bill Gates, after he actually left CEO, he now founded his foundation and has now been at the forefront, at the edge of looking at health care issues. And he actually predicted today's pandemic 5 years ago. I can point you to a TED Talk, and you can actually find it on YouTube. Just look for a TED Talk, Bill Gates talking in 2015, and he predicted that this could happen and that we needed to prepare. And all of his research that he had done up until then, 2015, that we were likely to see a pandemic just like the one we're seeing today. And no one did a thing globally. This is the reason why I admire Bill Gates, because he went from one thing to another, and he's an explorer just like me. And he looks to ways to improve and bring ideas to viable things that change the world. So who are your heroes? I know what my hero is, and I can share a few heroes that I have because I have heroes across every single aspect of my life. But from a professional point of view, I also have a different set of heroes, and it's great that you should actually be aware that it's not just a single hero. These are real human beings, not a fictional character like Superman or Spider-Man or any of the Avengers. Choose real humans that could be your role models, coaches, and mentors. And part of growing who you know, it should be to start identifying and recruiting prospective coaches and mentors, role models that can help you accelerate your career path. And having clarity on this helps you not only strengthen and expand and deepen your story in a way that is authentic about who you are, where you've been, and where you're going next. It's also then connecting with those people that are their followers, because then you will be able to forge new relationships if you can clearly communicate your heroes to other people, because those heroes may actually have lots of other followers around the world. So summarizing, these 7 things, these 7 ways that you can actually start embedding into your personal brand story are the ways that you can actually figuring out how to start creating a nonfiction brand story, meaning it's not a fictional story you're writing, it's a story about yourself. You got to make sure that it's genuine, that it's authentic. Also, emphasize your values, and your values are your superpowers, because courage brings boldness and brings having no fear about exploring, going where no one has gone before. When that seems to be scary for some people, for you, it's like an everyday thing once you make it a daily habit to continue expanding what you know and who you know, and start looking for different connections, different paths that you can explore. It also allows you to elevate your image by allowing your senses and highlighting your superpowers, and also allows you to start figuring out very quickly, identify non-believers, and very quickly figure out how to eliminate or avoid dealing with them. And very concisely share with people what you stand about, your brand mantra. 3 to 5 words, no more than that. No matter how much experience you might have, even you might have decades of experience, a brand mantra remains the same because it's a long-term approach to your reason for being. And number 7, choose the right heroes and figure out how to recruit them and become either your coaches, mentors, role models in your life, so that you can continue to accelerate your career path in the right direction. So these are all the things that I've shared. And I want to remind you, if you can actually begin your story. Before we get into Q&A, I got some announcements. Number 1, I actually recently started the BoldPM Academy. It actually is a series of virtual workshops that is really meant for product executives, senior managers within companies to actually start helping you, number 1, become an exceptional product leader within any organization, and also allows you to get better at doing product management within your organization or any organization. And part of actually developing your personal brand when you're actually in between jobs, or you're actually looking unhappily employed today, looking for your next opportunity, is about building your executive presence. It's about making sure that people know who you are and where you're going next. And executive presence is not just for executives, it is for those of you who are either want to get into management or are currently in management and want to continue going to the next level. And this workshop is about building your personal presence, your executive presence, when you're stuck in the Zoom world of video conferences within your organization. The next one is actually have teamed up with Carl Pritchard. For those of you who know Carl Pritchard, he's actually a project management guru. Both of us have decades of expertise in him. He stayed in project and program management. I have stayed in product management, and we're going to be comparing and contrasting an in-depth comparison between the two roles. If you're in a company that has both roles implemented, you want to be at this virtual workshop. And this is coming up on June 17th. And if you click on the sign up buttons, these are hyperlinked. You can actually find out more and register on Eventbrite. The third conference that we have later on this month is about podcast. For those of you who want to now establish yourself, elevate your reputation, podcast is a way that you can actually start broadcasting your brand, meaning your brand casting. Once you develop a powerful personal brand, you now want to start broadcasting it around the world to as many people as you can. And podcast is one way you can actually add to your brandcast. And founder and principal of Podcast Village, Charlie Burney, who's a personal friend of mine, will actually lead this section in how to make it simple to actually start creating your own podcast. And this allows you to start deploying your personal brand story as you are now talking and interviewing those people that matter to you most. And start creating followers. There's also a live virtual course that's coming up next week. This is actually for those of you that want to become certified product managers. It's a 5-day live virtual training that's coming up. This is through Leoran, that's the training provider. If you click on the Learn More button, you will learn more about the class, the scope, and the schedule, and the cost. All of that you can do directly from Leoran by clicking on this Learn More button. It drives you to their page where you can find out more about this coming course. And finally, we are here for the Ask Me Anything portion. So I hope that many of you have actually typed in any questions you might have. I know I went over the material very quickly, but I did want to leave some time for the Q&A portion, and which I'm calling Ask Me Anything. And at this point, Wendy, if you can let me know if there's any questions.
Sure. Yeah, we have a couple here. The first is, I like the concept of a brand mantra. Did you use a mentor or other people to test your brand mantra?
So all of the 7 things that I talked about earlier, yes, it requires a lot of testing. So number 1, you have to be clear as to who is your target audience. Once you define your target audience, then you recruit a few that you know, and then maybe just a few, and start testing to see which one works best. Everything that I'm doing here requires a lot of testing, and that means that you have to go out after real subjects, recruit them, have friendly conversations, and say, hey, what do you think about this? And there's a lot of A/B testing often. So often when you're putting together, whether it's a brand mantra or your elevator pitch or your personal brand statement, all of these things require lots of A/B testing, which means you have to recruit suitable targets, real people that that can give you clear feedback regarding whether or not whatever you have come up with is working in the right direction or not. And this is where you need to start going after, working with coaches or mentors or role models, because some of these people, if they are your targets, they could actually give you open feedback. And you need to be an active listener and be prepared for hearing a lot of negative feedback that allows you to start looking as to how can you improve whatever you came up with. Don't expect that just because you've done this once that you're going to have the right thing. It's never that approach. This is an iterative approach and it's constant A/B testing. As things change in the market, you've got to do a lot of iterative A/B testing as you're coming up with things that work or don't work. And expect a lot of things to not work, and this is where you start learning from failure, but this is actually controlled experiments that you're doing by not going and blasting it out to the entire market. You're only testing it against a few, and once you start hearing positive feedback from those subjects, that's when you start now broadcasting it across the entire market. That's a great question, by the way, so thank you for asking.
Great, thanks. And then other questions, but in the meantime, the sign-up button didn't work for the video with Carl Pritchard. Would we be able to post that link
yes,
here?
I'm actually right now, I'm going to share all these links, the links to the landing pages via chat about all the announcements that I made. And I'm doing this right now as we're waiting for more questions. So I will do that. Thank you so much for letting me know.
Okay,
so
great.
I just shared the links to each one of those virtual workshops that are there. These are the actual short URLs. You can just click through and go there. They should work.
Perfect. And I'm just checking for any other questions here. Are there specific tools that one can use to create their story and brand mantra?
So the answer is yes. And they're in my slide deck, which I will share post-event, because I usually will put together a page where I share my deck, the video, and the podcast from any discussions that I do. I already have in my deck, which I didn't show here, for further reference, and it's a list of references. And the main reference I used for these 7 tips that I gave you came from one book called Primal Branding. And if you read Primal Branding, you're not going to get the same experience, because Primal Branding was actually implemented to define company brands or product brand names. I'm applying the same process, the same tips to personal branding, which is new. This is an innovation. No one has done this before. Primal Branding is written for somebody else's brand, not yours. This particular one and a workshop that I'm planning on implementing in the near future walks you through how to apply in more detail. It's a how-to on developing and crafting your personal brand story using any of these 7 techniques that we talked about today. And they come from Primal Branding is the actual name of the book. It's available on Kindle, and there's a hyperlink on my slide decks, which you'll get on the post-event page, where you can go and find out more about that book. If you try to use it on your own, it's going to be hard to, because if you haven't done branding before, you're going to struggle. I actually pushed out another poll right now, and if you can tell me, I'm actually looking at putting together a future virtual workshop to help you craft your own personal brand story. And if you're interested, let me know. Tell me yes or no, you're not interested or not sure via the chat window. I just sent that information via chat. If you can respond to that chat, let me know whether you are interested or not in actually doing a virtual workshop on crafting your own personal brand story.
Great. Thanks, Hector. And then another question here, what is the difference between project management and product management? I'm not sure if they want to know the manager or the management.
Yes. So let me just start with saying the big companies that have gone into global brands, right? From Google to Apple to Microsoft to IBM to Facebook. All of these organizations scale very quickly, and guess what? They all have hundreds of product managers working alongside hundreds of project managers. And there's only a few set of companies that know how to use both roles the right way. Carl and I have had this conversation before, and we get stuck often trying to help out organizations that have both, and often they're confusing as to how they deploy both roles, because they think it's a one-word change between product management and project management, that a great project manager can make a great product manager and vice versa. And that is not correct. It's a different skill set needed for project management compared to product management. And the essence for a company to actually grow and scale, you need to have teams of both, not one or the other. And this is where many organizations that end up getting stuck in the middle struggle as to how to implement these 2 roles the right way within their organizations. So I would say that if you're interested in learning more in detail, come to the virtual workshop, because this is reality. There are many companies today that are going to be left behind because of their inability to actually plan the resilience of their business, and they're going to be left behind during the current economic downturn. And you may be in one of these organizations, and if you're in the world where you're currently overwhelmed with work or unhappily employed, and you have the situation, I can tell you that the likelihood of you being in the same job today within the same organization at the end of 2020 is low probability. Learn to figure out what to do, because you have some options. If you're a project manager, you can become a great product manager, but you need to grow your skills. And vice versa, if you're a great product manager, you can become a great project manager, but it's also a different set of skills that need to be emphasized and grown. And this workshop will give you clarity as to understanding the different domains of expertise between product management and project management.
Great. Thanks, Hector. And a follow-up question. In Agile, there is a product owner. Is this the same as the product manager?
So this is actually, we talk about this in the workshop, high level. What most companies that do the wrong thing is they want to have a person that is the project manager, the product owner, and the product manager. That's the perfect example of shooting yourself in the foot, or shooting yourself in the head for that matter, as a company. There's way too many things between the differences between all of these roles. They have to have different teams, different people allocated across all three. Not one, not two, all three, especially if you are a software company using agile methodologies to how you build products.
Great, thank you. I think we covered them. I'm going to post your links in the Q&A as well as you have it posted in the chat, and I'm going to put it in the Q&A as well so everybody can get to those links easily through the Q&A or the chat. So definitely check those out. I will go through a few reminders and then check back again and see if there's any additional questions before we close for today.
Sure. And what I want to say, Wendy, also is I want to just share, if you are interested in continuing the conversation, feel free to set up an exploration call. We can share, discuss where you're at as far as your personal brand and creating your story. Whether or not you need help, I can at least guide you. I can offer you to have a 30-minute exploration video conference. And whether or not you attend the workshops or, want to actually do this on your own, you can actually just reach out to me and let me know if you're interested in at least doing a free 30-minute conversation with me to kind of assess your current situation as what you're doing as far as personal branding is concerned, and discuss options and ways that I may be able to help you. And I just sent out my contact information. I sent you my email and also a short link to my profile. If you connect with me on LinkedIn, let me know that you attended today's webcast and that you want to set up a 30-minute exploration video conference, or just email me. Either one works, and I will reply to you with information and set up a date and time slot when we can actually have a conversation via video conference.
Great, thank you. And then just a reminder, the PDU code for today's webinar will be sent to you via email. And if you would like to become a member of the Great IT Professional, please visit our subscribe page at greatpro.org/subscribe. Premium membership is $199 per year. It does allow you unlimited anytime access to the online library of content, which includes over 1,000 PDU hours. And as Hector mentioned earlier, we are running a special this month, so check that out. If you'd like to try out our mobile app for free, you can go to www.greatpro.org/mobile. I think we covered all the questions, but I will leave the screen up as well as the Q&A and chat up so you can get down all the great information that Hector shared and the links. So feel free to copy and paste that so you can check out those opportunities. But thanks to everyone so much for joining us today. We hope to see you at future events. And Hector, thanks for being here today. We always appreciate having you with us, sharing your time and knowledge. As Hector mentioned, his email is on the screen, hector@BoldPM, so certainly if you think of additional questions, feel free to reach out. And if you have questions on the Great IT Professional, I can be reached at wendy.nolan@cai.io. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Hector.
Thank you, everyone, and thanks so much, Wendy, for being a gracious host. And everyone, have a great rest of your week. Stay safe and be well.